And away we go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting with the Virtual Tasting Society. I am Vadim Perlovsky, and today we're excited to welcome back Rich Varga, who is going to be talking about Bowmore Distillery. What is the oldest distillery on Isla? When I was
Yes,
writing up
sir.
the thing, yeah,
Yep.
we're excited. It's a distillery that you don't really see that much of, or you haven't for a long time. I know you guys just came out with the sherry range, but to me, it's always been this kind of hard to find and elevated distillery. You guys had the what was it? Was it a Bentley? No, was it a Bentley partnership or was it
Aston
Aston
Martin.
Martin?
Yep.
Yeah, so more of a luxury brand. I know there was a history of the famous 80s bottlings. I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But
Oh, we are? Darn it. I was
uh
hoping to get away from that.
no, I mean it's part of the history, right? You're not doing that anymore,
True.
but it's good to know about it. Long story short, I mean this is a legendary brand that's definitely worth hearing about. And gosh, it took us 5 years to get here, so huge thanks to you for making this possible for us. Um, Thank you for this is what your third time with us, so thank
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
regular. Hopefully we'll have a few more brands with you somewhere in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. For those who are here meeting you for the first time, give us a couple of words about yourself, and then tell us a lot about Bowmore. Why should we be seeking out bottles of Bowmore and having it in our collections?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's funny you mentioned the collectible aspect of that because I'm going to sort of break this up into eras. It's a lot of ground to cover, but don't worry, I'm not going to talk extensively on it. I know we're all here to experience the whiskey, and it's much more better to experience it by tasting it than just listening to stories. But I do think stories kind of helps give us and set the pace, the tone, and the setting for everything. But in that more sort of modern area that I'm terming it is when Suntory takes over. Um, and it's been a long time since they've had it, but I think this last couple of years really are kind of a turning point for the distillery, and they do want to make it one of the most collectible single malts out there. And they've been pretty active on in Sotheby's 101. Some of the auction items have gone really high. You mentioned the Aston Martin, so that was a 5 year partnership, and it just sunsetted. FYI, I do think we are going to have some combo deals coming out to the retailers on Aston Martin 21 and 22 year, because that partnership is coming to an end. So keep an eye on that in your retailers. It hasn't hit yet, but when it gets through the distributors, I think we're going to have some nice holiday price points on those because again, they are ending, and they're gonna look to replace that with a new lifestyle partner. So watch this space, I think, is the takeaway on what Suntory is looking. It's been a really long relationship with Suntory and Bowmore, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it actually they've been kind of been flirting with each other since the '60s, and so it's kind of come to fruition decades later. We'll get into it. But it's good to see some familiar faces. I know this is our third one. We did Ardre, which was nice, a deconstruction. We got into Lafroig, which is oftentimes a lot of everyone's kind of favorite islet. It's a fun islet to talk about. Um, and then now I think, yeah, we're switching things up a little bit. So let's get into it. So just to root us geographically, because what are there? 130, 140 distilleries now, so you could be forgiven if you don't know where all of them are in Scotland. So we are in Isla, so of the gorgeous kitty. Um, so of the five geographic regions, whiskey regions, we are on Isla. I'm sure everyone's has some experience with Isla. If not, very quickly, it's a wild, windswept island off the western coast of Scotland. It is 35 miles away from Ireland, if you can see it. You most of the time you can't see it because it's raining, and if you can see it, it's about to rain. So it's one of those things that gets about four different seasons in one day. But colloquially kind of known as Whiskey Island, and some of the most sort of cult favorites come from there. So Lefroy, Ardbeg, Lagavulin, Bunnahabhain, Kalila, all those are from Isla. We are in generally, if you look at Isla, about in the middle. And I think that's kind of a good way to even think about sort of the flavor profile of it. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But generally, in the middle of it, there's a sea inlet there called Lockendall, and we have sat in exactly the same place on the shores of Lockendall for over 240 years, which is incredible when you think about it, since 1779. And a lot of people, throw out dates, and a lot of times they kind of wash over you. But when you really think about that, in 1779, George Washington was still on the battlefield. We weren't even a country here in the United States. So to think about a distillery that's already licensed and making scotch at that time, it's really incredible. What I think is one of the most significant takeaways from that time is they construct the number one vaults. It's their original Scotch maturation warehouse, and it's kind of everything you want that to be. It's still in existence. When you go to it, it's got a rusted padlock on the outside. When you open the gates, it's a dunnage warehouse with earthen floors and thick stone walls. Those walls form part of the seawall. In fact, part of it is under sea level. So you'll sometimes there'll be some water in corners of the warehouse. And some of the most amazing releases from Bowmore have come from this, especially from the 60s. It's the ideal place to mature whiskey. It's the oldest Scotch maturation warehouse in the world. And I think that's
Do you have any
really
photos by any chance of
we
this?
I could look them up. Yeah, they're pretty easy to find. I think I've got one on my I could find some on the
No, no,
thing.
that's fine. I just thought maybe you
Yeah.
got them offhand.
There's
I've got the website pulled up, so if I see something, I'll toss it up.
yeah, there's some really nice shots of like that padlock, and I'm happy to send some over. There may actually have been some in that initial cachet of things that I sent over. Maybe take a look through that folder, but if not, I'm happy to share some pictures from my trips there. But yeah, it's really incredible. But I think too that it's the proximity of that which is special because it's right next to the sea. And that infuses that sort of maritime influence, the salinity, that sea air, that's part of one of the uh, hallmarks really of the taste profile. And we talked earlier about it sort of being in the middle of Isla, and you can kind of view that too as an easy way to remember how they fall on the peating scale. So if you go higher in Isla, it just happens to work out this way. Obviously, it's nothing related to the basin bogs or blanket bogs or anything like that, but the higher north, generally they peat a little bit less, and then way at the bottom at the south, you get your peat monsters with Ardbeg and Lagavulin and Lefroy, and we sit geographically sort of in the middle, and that is sort of keeps too with where we are on our peat, which is moderate. So our flavor profile is generally what they would say perfectly balanced peat or smoke. Maritime influence, it's going to sort of be almost got a wet stone, sort of a flinty minerality to it. And then I think this is the most probably surprising to new folks that tried Bowmore, experience it for the first time, and certainly I think really got a lot of fanfare around the 60s releases. There's a aspect of tropical fruits that you pick up, and maybe you're picking up some of these flavor profiles now on the 12. Um, the tropical fruits are going to be a little bit more present when we get into the 15, certainly by the 18. But we'll talk about, I think, the intentionality behind that and why that's there. they say crafted with intent. That's their latest marketing thing, but it does speak, I think, to where they're at. They after all these years, this tremendous amount of time, they're still clinging to a lot of traditional aspects, and we'll talk about those. So huge amount of time, and I'm going to extend it out even further and break this era up into sort of four. And I think it's kind of a nice way to sort of approach and appreciate the distillery, sort of the landmark moments in it. Um, I mentioned the sea, and the sea to me is a critical part because I'm going to go all the way back to sort of the ancient underpinnings of just the land in this area. And that is, um, for 500 years, there were a group of people that were Gaelic Norse that called themselves the Lords of the Isles. And that sounds like Game of Thrones spinoff, and it's mythical and legendary, but it's not mythical. It's 100% true, and you can see the remnants of this old sea kingdom back when the oceans were the highways of the world. And this area allowed them to get it to wouldn't it be the Laird? We'll talk about the Laird, which is hundreds of years afterward, but um, I think I may have missed some chats too, which I'm help call me out on those if I missed some of them. But yeah, they oversaw this area for 500 years. And again, it gave them access when you look at where they are geographically on the map, it gives them access to all these ancient capitals and whatnot. And from this, you get you get the clans of McDonald's and whatnot, and you go through the whole lineage of that. But I think what really sort of sets the tone really is the elemental aspect of this, which is the sea. And I don't know, has anyone been to Bowmore? Vadim, you've not? Surprised. Okay. I don't know if I'm missing
I've
anything
actually never
else.
been to Isla,
Oh, you
so
haven't? Okay, we got to change that. Uh,
agreed. Yeah, I haven't. I've been anti-peat for a long time, so only this year have I finally begun to appreciate
okay, so maybe Bowmore will be an entry point in. We should have done that before Lefroy for you.
it. We had it on the calendar before Lefroy. We
We
had to do a
did.
last
You're
minute
right.
pivot.
Yes, exactly. Our
We had
instincts
it
were right.
right. It just we wanted to support other groups, and so it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah, the pivot. You're right. Um, So I think it's the sea really, which is it's a seafaring community, and that's really kind of the important takeaway I think of just that sort of legendary aspect of this of the Lords of the Isles. And
Does
again, like I said,
the little enclave of water have any effect on it because it's not being hit by the ocean as much as
yeah, 100%. Yeah. So there's
like
another
a
one of our distilleries, of course, Lefroy has Warehouse One, which is right there, and that takes the full brunt of the Atlantic's punishment. Whereas, yeah, it's being in on that sea inlet, it's a bit more sheltered. You still get water which will lap up against that number one vaults. I mean, it's the sea wall, so it will affect it. But it's not nearly the intensity that you'd get from being on the open ocean. So things I think that's part of why I think the number one vaults are able to slowly generally mature these over time. It's at about 40 to 45% Fahrenheit year round. Those thick stone walls kind of insulate that, so there's not a tremendous amount of variation. But it helps it. And I do think it's part of the reason why we're able to release a 54-year-old. It's why we have on our way to having a 57-year-old is things mature in a special way in that warehouse, and they have time, and I think part of it too, just to circle back to the sea, is I think about the Arc 54, which was the latest release we had, and that's 5 decades in a dark dunnage earthen floor warehouse whose only timekeeper is the sea. It's the tides that are lapping up against. And I think about like what that life of the cask was for 54 years. And I do think it's an elemental part of its life. And again, I was saying if anyone has been to Bowmore when you go, and I would love to facilitate anyone to get there, but when you walk away from the number one vaults, there's an old stone pier, and you look out, and I swear for me, I could just sense it immediately. It just this almost like ancient Norse presence. I almost feel like out of the fog would come this ghost ship, and it's just in the air. And so, uh, yes, I'm right there with you on the mid 50s maturing. Um, so I think it's a special place, and then from there, I think getting into our next era, which would be our foundational era, which of course starts in 1779, starts with a gentleman by the name of David Simpson. He is, by all accounts, distilling at least 10 years earlier in an area called Killaloe. Killaloe, and you're speaking, someone had brought up the Laird. So Isla was purchased by a gent whose home got burned down by rioters that were protesting a 3 cent increase in malt tax. They took their taxation a lot more seriously than we do here in California because we're paying 50% of our incomes. And they were complaining about 3 cents of an increase, and they burned the gentleman's home to the ground. As repayment for that, he got to take some money and invested it into Isla. Um, I think the of having gone through that, having the commoners and the villagers that close to home, literally, because he was building his ancestral and family home there, was not something he was keen to do. So he had the great idea to move everyone. So they took everyone from the Killaloe parish and they moved them to this brand new planned community where they'd already built a round church and they'd had a pier and they'd already had the semblance of this becoming the cultural center of Isla. And that community was called, shocker, Bowmore. Um, David had waited about 10 years actually from its initial founding, but he eventually started the distillery there in 1779. And again, we talked about the influence to this day of the old warehouse that they built and that are still in operation today. So there's a massive amount of history at play, and we've written the history of Whiskey Island. We've been a part of that just by being there, present for so long, and being somewhat leaders for a while too. Um, I think the next sort of big point from that would be 1800s, 1837 to be exact. The Mudders, the Mutta Brothers. Hello, Mutta. Um, they their big commitment to it is twofold. One of the brothers is actually an ambassador, and they've got a little bit of disposable income here. So they have a ferry and they have a warehouse in Glasgow, and they start this idea of Bowmore not just becoming something that's sold for the blends, but already starting marketing it as a single malt. Again, this is the early 1800s before the blends come around in like the 1860s a little bit more and things like that. So they set the tone for that. Significantly, I think their big accomplishment is they dig a lade, which is a concrete trench, because their water source is 5 miles away from the distillery. And your water is the lifeblood of the distillery. And so this actually goes about 7 miles. I've heard it's the longest route to a distillery in Scotland. It goes 7 miles because it has to sort of follow the natural fall of the land to keep the water, to keep it delivering to the distillery. But they dig that. And the insane thing is, this is all done by hand. This is 1837. So, of course, horses and cattle or whatnot would help, but there's no big machinery for 7 miles of this. It's a tremendous, tremendous undertaking. But they secure that, it's a huge thing to set it up. And these are two big, I think, foundational parts of the distillery. Um, those are now in place, and we have an epic maturation warehouse. We have the founding of it. We have the water source, and we're clinging to traditional techniques. And we're coming up, I think, on the fesh here in a little bit if you're jonesing for it. But a big part of this is we're still doing floor malting, and it's something that was established early on. We are probably, I'd have to check right now, but I think it's got to be less than 10, maybe eight distilleries now, floor malt. Over the years, many distilleries decided that it's incredibly labor intensive. Of course, we've all heard of monkey shoulder. It was a real injury. And so, from repetitive strain, from lifting grain with shovels over and over and over, and we'll talk about why that happened on the physical process of it. Um, but the distilleries were starting to invest in other things and to sort of keep all these things active, floor malting, new stills, updating stills, grains, yeast, and of course, great casks, all those things. People started making tough decisions, and we kept with the traditional floor malt. We do 25%. That's about all we can really do on the floor malts, which is actually quite a bit. And four times a year, we do 100%, which is a perfect inlet right now to trying the 8-year fesh. It is 100% floor malted, and it was released during Feshila. And if you don't, if it sounds like a lot of you have not been to Isla, and if you want a crazy time to go during the Coachella of Isla, which is Feshila. And it is, I think now, a 10-day festival, and all the distilleries will take part. There's music, there's food. The distilleries will release special releases. Some of these have jumped up considerably in value. One of my favorites was Cask 666 from Devil's Cask. We mentioned the church earlier. So the church was built without any corners. It's a round church. And the idea was, well, if it's a round church, then the devil has no place to hide. He can't hide, no, but the devil's still here. So where is he? And they said, well, he escaped into the number one vaults. And so what we did is we did a Devil's Cask release. So nothing with any of the spirit remaining in the wood, just a really beautiful sherry cask. And we had cask 666. All that to say, they did release it during Fesh, I think in 2019. And that bottle is it was probably $70 when they released it, and it's probably 1,500 or more now. I'm going to stop real quick just because I loved this 8-year. I thought it drank like an 18-year, but I'd love to hear the feedback. And I think I just saw someone jump in.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think it
I,
drank like a 56 either. I'm gonna,
yeah. I'm really surprised. It is so incredibly smooth,
yeah,
and it. You're right. I would not have thought it was an 8-year whiskey. It's totally does not drink like an 8-year. It doesn't drink like a cask strength. It has some really interesting, like red fruit, stone fruit kind of notes on it for me. Um,
Hmm,
does this have any sherry influence, or is it just straight cask?
sherry. Yeah, yeah, and that beautiful color on it. Um, yeah, I am so impressed with this just because even though it's 8 years, and a lot of times, when you talk about our other distillery, some of our distillery managers really like when we have less years, only because you are closer to the distillery character, and it's not really overshadowed by some European oak or anything else that's going to change it. To me, this is sort of the best of both worlds. It drinks like it's 10 years older. It's got an amazing complexity to it. I picked up a lot of tannins, but I still get some of those fruit notes that come through and dark berry notes that come through. And I just was impressed too because I wasn't and I didn't want to kind of give it away at the start because Vadim, you had a great question, which is, are we going to blow our palates out here with something that's, higher than 55%? And I don't think we do at all. I get just a lovely coating on the palate, and it's just bursting with flavor. Grapefruit, great note.
This is exquisite. It's
Really,
seriously
I think
luxurious.
it's a good one to save half maybe at the end too.
For sure. Yeah, you got to finish on this. But what's really interesting to me is so this is all your hand malting on site. What's the do you know the parts per million that you guys are putting into the barley? Because this is so light to me, so lightly peated. It's got all the
Yeah.
juicy fruit in the front, but it's got just a hint of smoke on the back.
Yeah, this is generally we are as we sort of like balance everything out with 75% from industrial and 25% from us. We are around 30 ppm,
Okay.
and then Simpsons will fall lower on that. And when you get it to about ends up to about 25. But this would have been closer to 30 on the parts per million.
This is delicious.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
And what I really like with this too, and I think this is, you know, I think part of the reason too is so when you talk about sort of the nuts and bolts of making scotch and whiskey just in general, you and especially the Scots, right? So you're looking for efficiencies, and this is this is anything but efficient. So these are people, and I want to just talk about the process too, just so we kind of appreciate it. So grain comes into us at about 13% moisture, and that's great to store. We're not going to get mold, but it's not going to grow. It's just not high enough moisture content. So we have to steep it. So we want to convince it that you're not in a bin from Simpsons, you're on Isla and it's a spring day and you should grow and turn into a beautiful plant. So we'll steep that for about 27 hours underwater. It'll get steeped and dried, steeped and dried, steeped and dried, but about 27 hours of water. So that's you've got to get gents to do all that and get it soaked, and we'll raise that to about 42% moisture. Then when we get it, it thinks it's essentially a spring day, and it's going to start to germinate. And so we will then lay it out onto a concrete floor. And these are those sort of traditional images you see all the time, white pillars, concrete floor. But again, it's spread out by hand and you're putting it in these chariots, and it is a core workout. I did it for like 5 minutes and I was dead. And so you're running that out. You're spreading it all out in about 24 hours. It gets to about 60 degrees and just under its own natural heat. If we let it stay like that, it's going to start germinating and sprouting, and we're going to essentially end up with a barley carpet. So we don't want that, especially when you think about how vast the malting floors are. So we turn it every 4 hours, day and night. So no sleeping through the night, every 4 hours by shovel. We do that for 5 to 7 days. On the seventh day, he rested. Now, that's a different story. Um, but they do that, and again, this is why we hear of monkey shoulder. This is a tough gig. Um, After that, we don't want it to continue to grow because we're not here to grow plants. We're here to make whiskey, damn it. And so now we're gonna arrest its development by trying out that moisture, and that's when we'll peat it. But just that, I think that process is just gives you an idea of just how much is involved to get to that level. Um, I think when we start talking about the peat that might be a good time to get into the 12 and 12 sherry just to sort of move things along. Um, Anyone else have any? Oh, date syrup is a great note, Jane. Jane always has great culinary references, which I appreciate.
It's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, it perfectly ties in because I think a lot of times too, and I like that you share it because I think a lot of times people taste things and they might just be painting in broader strokes where they're like, well, that's sweet, but they're not really sure what that sweet is. That a citrus sweetness? Is it like a treacle? Is it honey? Is it a like there's all types of different sweetnesses and I think to sort of narrow that down is really really important. Um, I hate to move on from the eight, but we got a lot of we've got a lot of other good ones coming up.
Well, save
Um,
yourself a little pour of the eight for dessert, for sure.
yeah,
The PX
yeah.
Sherry is really shining through on this.
Jane, did you mail out vanilla ice cream in the packages? We could have it with that.
I don't think that would have worked very well, but yeah.
It was included in everybody's box. If it melted and leaked out, sorry.
It was VVIP.
That's right.
If you paid, it survived. If not, you got a soggy box. All right. So just continuing on, I think with the process, about 3 miles down the road, there's a peat bog. It's a basin style bog, and all that really means, as opposed to a blanket one, is kind of the makeup of the bog itself. This is going to be a little bit more grass, moss, lichen. It's not going to have the woodiness that you would get on maybe like a mainland peat bog. Not a lot of trees on Isla. And so the makeup of this is going to be a little bit more iodine. Those sort of flavors will come through. Gartbreck is the name of our peat bog. And what we do a little bit differently than Lefroy, we do a machine cut, a tractor cut, Irish style. And what that means is it's sort of like it's like almost like a surgeon's cut. So they'll cut it under, they'll flap it, they'll remove the peat and they'll flap it back. And the reason we do that, and Suntory's very big on this, is peat is a carbon sink, and so we don't want to release that. And so by flapping it back, it helps to preserve the peat bog, and it still allows us to get the peat, to extract it, to dry it out, and then we'll smoke it. And this is another big differentiation between Simpsons and industrial malts or industrial grain that we get in. So we'll do this in a two-stage process. So it is moist, obviously, at this point, and the husk, when it's damp, will absorb more of the smoke. So we do this in a two-stage process whereby the first 10 hours we are smoking the peat, and we'll throw some peat calf on top, which is essentially just sort of broken down peat. It's not the squares, it's not the density of that. And what we want to do is we kind of want to just smother the flame. We don't want a hot flame to come through. We want to continually do this where we're releasing a peat reek and smoke up through this mesh into the grain. And after that, we'll continue on for about 34 more hours to eventually dry it out. And then that'll dry out to about 5.5%. And then it's warm. So we'll let it sit for anywhere from 7 to 10 days in a bin until it's cooled down. And then we're ready to start milling and mashing and everything else. But I think it's a good place to stop, um, get into our 12 again, and see if if what I think from this is going back to it now that we've sort of seasoned our palate, we've got a baseline on 12 year, is for me, it's more about comparing it with the 12 sherry because you don't often get a chance to do a direct comparison same years. So I'm going to start with the 12 year.
Hey Ralph, I I've been reading about people trying to do reforestation of the peat bogs on mainland Scotland. Are they doing a portion of Isla trying to get trees back out there?
Yeah. So we have a, so the problem is, part of the problem with the reforestation is part of it was man-made, in that they used a gang load of wood to make the ships. And so they did a massive amount of clear cutting, and agricultural figures into that. But there is another significant part to that, which is good because we're able to get bogs of peat. A lot of times it's a waterlogged environment, which is actually what you need to make peat. That's not good for trees and tree roots. And when you combine that with the tremendous winds that come through the area, it's very tough to sort of reforest Isla or even vast parts of Scotland. So there are things underway. I think pendulum swings, sometimes too far in one direction, and there's an adjustment. Um, the industrial age was devastating for the forests. But I don't think we're ever going to get back to those like Grand Caledonian forests, even, hundreds of years from now, just because the geography of the area it makes it difficult.
Yeah, I could understand like reforesting certain areas. But yeah, I understand the winds. I live in a part of Northern California where all of our trees are like this.
Yeah, where the Santa Ana is, right?
East San Francisco Bay Area. So, and
Yeah,
we've got huge marshlands out here.
yeah.
So, and there ain't no trees out there. So,
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, and I think it's a really astute and a good point, and thank you for bringing it up too, because I think it's one of those things where you look at pictures of Scotland, and sometimes it doesn't really dawn on you. You're like, why is this weird? And you're like, oh, there's no trees on the hillsides. It's, yeah, there's a little bit, but it's between the coups, the Highland coups, the grazing, the farmland, the industrial age. It's, all those things got sort of clear cut. But it's when you're aware of it and you start seeing those pictures, you're like, yeah, this is kind of weird. It's almost like one of those like chat GPT photos where you take a photo and you're like, remove all the trees, and you're like, this looks weird now. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to get into the 12. Just such a no, it's such a light, lovely entry point.
the
Said we're
12,
tasting the 12 single malt side by side with the sherry, or for now you're just on the 12 single malt?
I'm just on the 12 right now, but feel free if anyone's jumped ahead. I'm about to get there myself. I wanted to kind of just savor this 12. Just it really is, it's the basis of everything else. So I want to really kind of get that as a baseline.
when I drank the 12, I immediately flashed back to boot camp, that first receiving barracks where it's clean, you smell the medicinal, you smell the cleaner,
Oh, that's
but you smell the
interesting.
sweetness of maybe the fragrance in the cleaner, and
Yeah.
then all the new boots and new uniforms, the new rubber. Yeah,
Wow.
it just immediately popped into my head.
That is such a cool image. I love when I think I talked about this before. It's just scent. Scent is is that thing that can just take us right back. Like you'll walk by someone and smell their perfume. You're like, my gosh, that's a girl I dated in high school 20 years ago. Or it's just like same thing with that. I mean, how long ago was boot camp? So, and I probably couldn't have coaxed evocative memory out of you. You know, you could have even looked at a photo and probably not even had brought it back so vividly. But yeah, it's one of the senses that just takes us right back. Mm. I'm going to get on to the sherry. By the way, so just to let us know what Vadim has done for you, he's unappreciated. Um, So the 12 and the 15 sherry are available right now. And so if you like them, run on out for Christmas. But the 18 and the 21 will not hit the shores for probably 5 months, probably at the minimum. So nice sneak peek to, first of all, exceptionally aged up to 21 years. The finishes are um, it's expensive and aged and lovely as well. But I think just the fact that you can't get them for, almost half a year. Uh Already on Michael, you already on the 12 sherry? Yeah. Anything straight away?
I've been going back and forth. I
Yeah.
love doing side by side comparisons.
Yeah, me too. So the 12-year, all these sherry ranges, we should talk a little bit about what makes them different. So these are going to be part of the new core range. So it's just sort of extending it a little bit more into revealing a different side of Bowmore with the sherry finish. All of these, firstly, are going to enjoy a concurrent maturation with Oloroso. So you've got a full 12 years bourbon and a full 12 years Oloroso, and then they have an additional finish. So, and that finish is anywhere from 15 to 18 months. This one is an Oloroso finish, second fill. So, sort of just on the 12 year, just sort of reinforces what's been happening there for over a decade. Um, but I think it's very interesting on what happens on all these because they're going to switch it up on all of these as we go through the range. And I'm glad that we can do the entire range. Chinese five spice, great, great note.
Yeah, it's just this really subtle little undertone to the red fruits from the sherry on the nose. I just was like, what is that? What is that? And I'm like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, think food. Okay, there it is.
Yep. Mouthfeel to me was different. I don't know if anyone, for me, I got almost twofold. It came on kind of silky, and then I think some of those tannins from the European oak made themselves available, and it got a little spicy there on the finish.
Just for context and sometimes contextual clues, who is Bowmore? Who's Bowmore's parent company? Or
Suntory.
Center Beam Centauri? Okay.
Yeah. So the other one that we would own is Lefroy.
So these are all the Knob Creek 12-year bourbon casks.
Mostly makers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Also the weeding. That's funny.
You'll see an odd Jack Daniels once in a while rolling around, which is weird to see. But yeah, mostly makers. Would be nice to have a knob. Yeah. I like where this is heading on the 12 sherry. Again, for me, it's I deeper flavors, mouthfeel, spice, and now what I like is we're sort of pulling two levers here. So it's spice, and this is actually kind of how Bowmore ages too. Sometimes it'll kind of, I can't really always steer these. Sometimes they'll sort of double down and go more toward a a woody, more spicy direction, and other times they'll kind of embrace the fruit of it. On this, um, I'm kind of I'm getting a sense of both that are coming through. Any more time on those? We're eager to get to the next. Yeah, I think the next part of the process too, and I'm going to probably even start in on the 15. This is old Formula 15, by the way. So it's 12 years in bourbon, and it's a final 3 years in sherry.
So does this still have the darkest moniker on the bottle or box, or is that gone?
It's gone. Yeah, and in all transparency, um, it didn't have a lot of cachet because there was caramel coloring to ensure consistency across all the barrels. So to call it darkest, um, y- you didn't really want to get into a place where you're saying, well, it's darkest because it's been in a sherry cask the longest, and it's extracting the color. Um, so I think it was kind of a misnomer. It had good intentions, but it's kind of neutralized when you've got caramel coloring added for just to keep it consistent. So that's been gone and it's replaced now with just the 15 year.
Even just the regular 15, I'm certainly getting the sherry notes. I think you said it's 3 years in a sherry barrel at the end.
Yeah,
Um, the sherry notes are definitely there. I'm
yeah,
excited for the 15 sherry.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. I think that's where this range really starts to come to life in nice ways. Also, too, and I think this leads into two things on our fermentation. Um, are you starting to pick up the tropical fruits? Because right around 15 is usually when I do, and I definitely am right now on the finish, especially. This is candied oranges. Yeah, it's spot on. Um, this is the distillery workers' favorite is the 15 year. Um, it just hits nice parts. It's mature enough that it's starting to soften up. You start getting that sherry influence as well. But on the finish, I start getting, wow, you're like, how does a scotch have a mango note at the end or a guava note? And it's something to just keep in mind as we go into the 18 year and above. But I like the honey. I like the candied orange. I like the sort of, we say it's kind of a whisper of smoke on here. Vadim, I don't know, like, you're just kind of getting in. Are, are these a little bit more approachable to you than
Oh,
peat
they're
bogs?
fantastic. Yeah, they're fantastic. They're so gentle.
Yeah,
I'm surprised nobody's talking about how this could be a gateway to get people to drink peated scotch because it's so approachable.
yeah,
Um,
that's a great point.
yeah, and the sherried version of, when you do them side by side, the sherried is just so jammy. It's so viscous and again, just like fruity. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so on this production wise, I think where we start to see these things is when we talk about again the traditional. So we are doing we don't use stainless steel, we do Oregon pine wooden washbacks, 7 of them. So wood is porous and it allows for bacteria to have a habitat. um, and so of course things are clean but they're not sterilized. That's an important point because we want to retain that bacteria, and for us it's about malolactic fermentation. It's about taking that acidic tart mallow acid and turning it into the lactic. So you get that butteriness that comes through from wooden washbacks on the mouthfeel. But also too, and I think this is where we start to get in. Two other things is we are doing a semi-clear, so we use a semi-clear wort. Um, and so that is going to be bringing along some of those items that will allow for that fruitiness to be acted upon. So we use a semi-lauter, we stir it 3 times. We don't want to get a ton of that particulate and that malt, the grain in there to get those biscuit qualities. We want to get more of the clear wort aspects to it. And thirdly, and I think this is why we say again, and it's why I don't think it's fully just marketing fluff, because all these things are intentional and purposeful, is we do a 70-hour fermentation. So when you get anywhere, when you get past 55, you start introducing esters. And so we're at 70. And so that all those things, and of course the way it matures, but all these things now are starting to lead us toward that house style. Again, we talked about the seas influence, the maritime influence, that wet, flinty stone, but also the moderate peat, to Vadim's point, great entry point into Isla whiskeys in general. Um, but again, now I think from now on, it's the fruitiness on the finish from all those 3 things I mentioned.
There's a couple of really interesting notes on the 15 year. I know a couple of people have been pointing them out in the chat. I got a guava note on it. Jacob's got some passion fruit, and there's like this background note of, I don't know how southern most of y'all understand, but cuppa on the back end of it, which is
What is that?
cuppa is if you ever saw Steel Magnolias, it's Dolly Parton's recipe for a dessert. It's a cup of fruit cocktail with the juice, a cup of flour, and a couple of sugar. And you
Oh,
mix it
wow.
all up and throw it in the oven, and you pull it out when it's brown, golden brown and bubbly. Uh,
Oh, wow.
it's kind of decadent. Um, you might want to actually put some ice cream on it to cut the sugar up a little bit, but it's that kind of note. It's not biscuit, it's not cake, but it's got a little bit of that on the background for me.
Well,
So I haven't gotten to the sherry yet. I'm still having fun with the 15 year, but this is
yeah.
fascinating, all the weird little notes on it.
Yeah, and I think the great thing too is that sort of like syrupy thing that you probably pick up in there on the cuppa. That sounds like something I need to eat, by the way.
I could arrange that.
Mm, rose water. Great note there, Brandon. Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting, right? We're getting the passion fruit, the guava. Um, I think the pineapple will come up even later too, even more in the 21 year, but see what see what those things come forth. Any more time on the 15?
It just got
Oh,
into the 15 sherry cask.
yeah.
Holy cow. That might be taken over from the 12 as my favorite. I really have always loved that 12, but I don't think I've had the 15. There's like a citron note on
Uh,
it.
like a lemon, you're saying, or
Well,
or
citron is sort of in the middle of a whole bunch of them.
okay.
Usually you only ever see it as like a candied citron, like part of a mixed peel kind of thing.
Mm,
So it's that the mixed peel note would kind of work too. But for me, citron, it's like kind of like yuzu a little bit.
okay. Yeah, that's a great one
It's
too.
similar, yeah.
I started thinking of back when I bartended like an oleo saccharum, where you're taking those peels and you're getting like a nice sort of rounded citrus note to it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, a Ricola lemon drop. Interesting. Toasted marshmallow, great one there, Tony. Yeah, I get that too. on the nose. I think this does start leading us into Ricola. uh this takes us, I think, into the third era, which would be what I'm calling the inspirational era. And if you know Bowmore at all, it's the Morrison Bowmore era. And this all comes from a gentleman by the name of Stanley Morrison. So Stanley Morrison was a legend in whiskey, and Tim, his son, is involved now, I think, in Clydeside, and trying to think of some of the others that they have. Amazing, amazing whiskey family. Stanley very much just had the Midas touch. He started off. He was very smart, intelligent, bold, wily. He started off with Walker and Company, and it's not Johnny Walker. They were brokers, and marries the boss's daughter, and nice way to get some job security. And he gets in they have an ancestral home on Isla, actually, that he discovers, and kids are going there to play there during the summers. He starts a company, and with he gets the money from the bank, and the bank agrees to it because he's already had some success with Walker and Company. But they kind of notice that he's one of those guys that's going to kind of just follow the business anywhere. That might be a racetrack, or it might be a gambling den, or whatever it is. And so they kind of want bankers sort of like a little bit more conservative at the time. They want him to sort of paired with a little bit more of a grounded individual. So they pair him, and he's at this time in his mid 50s. They pair him with a gentleman called James Howitt, who's about 25, but he's very even keeled and conservative. And they think that he'll be a good person to sort of balance things out. They start their company, and immediate success. They flip Chivas to Seagrams. They were selling J&B back in the 60s, when they were selling at the time 1 million cases to the United States. So just like instant, just right out of the gate, they both tasted success. Um, at one point, and he's not just a broker. They're not just like selling things to malts or to blends. He has an appreciation too for these individuals. And in fact, he's an agent at one point for Glenn Farkless. And so he has an appreciation for the process. And I think this sort of rears it kind of, this kernel sort of develops later on. He ends up taking a lunch, which at the time in Glasgow, at a spot called Mama San. And that is the power lunch spot to be. He's there with his stockbroker, and they're going over his investments, and they're seated next to another table where the gentleman is a lawyer, and he's bragging about this new deal that's going to happen. And the deal is they are going to sell Bowmore Distillery to a Spanish company called DYC. And he overhears that, and it doesn't sit well with him because, again, he's spent time on the island. His kids had played there. He's very much a Scottish, identifying individual, and he just sees, this is the distillery that was the first distillery. It was founded in 1779, and it's going now into foreign hands and out of Scottish hands, and it just doesn't sit well with him. So he excuses himself from lunch, calls the woman now who's in charge and owns a distillery, who's a widow, Widow Grigger, and asks her if this is true. She says it absolutely is. I have 3 boys in boarding school, and I really don't know this business, and I don't want to be involved with it. I need a bag of money to help me out with these boys, and I'm heading to the mainland, to Glasgow, tomorrow to sign the paperwork. He has a silver tongue and he convinces her to come that night. They meet, they have dinner. At the end of dinner, he owns Bowmore for 80,000 pounds and another, it goes up to 117,000 pounds as she throws in a maturation warehouse in Glasgow. So that happens. He's never owned a distillery. He's never talked about doing this with his family. It shocks everyone, not the least being James, who he calls the next morning, who's out golfing, and he says, "Hey, guess what? I don't want to keep you long. I know you're on the links, but we own a distillery on Isla." And James is like, "What are you talking about? Like they're brokers. We don't know anything about this." And he's furthermore, he's like, "Where are we going to get the money?" And famously, Stanley says, "Well, James, that's your job. You're the money guy." And so he leaves it up to him, and they're in this business. They go to Isla. It is not in good shape. The distillery needs a lot of work. And they look at the books and they find out they have exactly one customer. That's it. And it's Bunnahabhain because Bunnahabhain is under renovation to modernize itself, which ironically is exactly what Bowmore needs to be doing at this time because it is, you see some photos of the time. It's not romantic looking. It looks a bit run down. Um, but they put their shoulders down and they get into it. They get through the first year. They buy it in 63 and they do a number of modernizations. They bring in a new boiler. It's a whole story around that. They make a significant change to go from direct fired to steam fired. And they continue the tradition of floor malting because they do want to control where they're at with their peat levels. So they do maintain that. And the great thing is, and I think maybe it was because of his experience with Glenfarclas and some of the other sherry makers that they'd been working with, they have some, must have been the best sherry casks in all of Scotland because they start putting whiskey down in 63 in incredible casks. And the 1964 Black Bowmore is the stuff of legends. It's some of the best scotch ever released by Scotland. And so, and I don't know if it's just all these things coming together. Their heart's in the right place. They were even known in the 70s and 80s during the whiskey lock, that they didn't lay folks off. They still kept people on 5 days a week. And so again, I don't know if the whiskey gods or the ancient lords of the Isles or whoever it was, but they sort of looked down. And this becomes, I say it's the inspirational, it's the golden era of Bowmore. And 1964, they go to Tokyo. They meet up with Suntory. They meet up with one of the brokers who's actually looking to offload supplying this new Japanese whiskey company with malts. And this is not a popular thing to do at the time because some of the people were thinking, we don't want to encourage the Japanese to develop their whiskey industry. God forbid they become a competitor to the Scots. What a crazy idea that was. But they they do it and they supply them. But they start this long relationship. They go to the Tokyo Olympics in, I think it's 64 or 65. And then they eventually start this relationship with Suntory from that business relationship that in 1989, Suntory takes 35% of the company with an option to take it more. In 1993, they release that Black Bowmore. That must have got the attention of the Japanese because a year later in 1994, they exercised their option and bought Morrison Bowmore out entirely in 1994 at 100%. So they owned it before owning any of the other distilleries, but they did pick up Glengarry, and I believe Akatoshin was part of the mix as well. So they picked that up as part of the entire portfolio. So it's an interesting relationship that started and nurtured over decades as they sort of dated each other for a while with reciprocal business. But it's the golden era, and those whiskeys I think are sort of the hallmark of what um, we're constantly striving to get to. And I mentioned the Arc 54 earlier. So the Arc 54 was distilled in November of 1968. And so this decade, this full decade, even into the early 70s are really exceptional Scotch that come out of Bowmore. That takes us into where are we at now? We've had our 15. I think this is a good time for us to get into the 18. So just so we know when we talk about the maturation influence here. So on the 15, the difference is first the 15 core was 12 bourbon and 3. On the 15, we're going concurrent again. So it's full 15 years Oloroso. And then we're going a first fill. So it's a little bit of a differentiation on how that plays out. So on the 12 year, it sort of softens and kind of reinforces, I guess, if you will, the Oloroso. But the 15 year has that imprint of Oloroso because it's 18 months in first fill. So it's deeper grooves, if you will. But I think the 18 is a great one to sort of toast. I think 18 is a great year for just Scotch in general. Um, and I think it's a great one to toast the Morrison Bowmore era. The 18-year sherry is again concurrent, 18 years on both. We're now switching it up though. Um, we talked about dessert earlier. We're going into more of a dessert sherry. We're going into a PX, a Pedro Jimenez. So this is an interesting one because now we've got two sherry influences and we've got the benefit of going almost 2 decades in bourbon. So all of those things are coming together, um, rounded off then with a PX finish.
That 18 is so well rounded, it doesn't have any edges anywhere.
I really love the finish on it too.
It's glorious.
Any other notes on the 18?
Jacob was saying he got pineapple cake and green apple.
Yeah, and that on that green apple note too, I think I almost get a little bit of mint.
I'd agree with mint.
And I like too because now this is great European oak. So now we've got those tannins. You get a little bit of that leather, a little bit of tobacco. I think it's going to get enhanced a bit more on the 21 year. But sweetness too. And again, those fruits are coming through. I get a little bit of that, almost a mango.
What's crazy to me is maybe I'm just an alcoholic, but I don't taste alcohol on this at all. It just tastes like flavor. It's so good.
Love that note.
It's like a really good fruit compote that you'd put on something for Christmas.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah. I think that Christmas note's right on.
Just all kinds
Little,
of stewed fruits that you ladle over cake or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like if the 12 years that cake, then this is that stewed fruits on top. Fruit leather, yeah. Pineapple, yeah, I do. Pineapple cake is a good one. To me, I get that pineapple, I get a little bit of that spicy mango. I do get something herbal mid palate. I just put it down as mint. It's kind of the first time, but and the reason why is it got a little bright for me mid palate, and then settled into a little bit of those darker fruits and little floral note there too. Yeah, yeah, gingerbread. Yep. I think those kind of notes. A little bit of the leather, the tobacco, the gingerbread. I think we're gonna probably even pick those up a little bit more. But it's gonna be interesting when we get to the 21. But I think that this kind of fully takes us in a nice way and organically into the what I call, and I guess, the modern era, even though it's been decades. But I think it's this sort of newfound reinvestment into Suntory and releasing not only this, but we have an Appellation series and Duty Free that talks about all these different, wine influences. And so there's a lot of interesting things coming around it where again we sunset it on the Aston Martin, but there's going to be a new lifestyle partner that's coming through. They haven't told us yet. But there's some nice things around this, and Suntory is committing to it. So they're committing the, to keeping the traditions of it. I've talked to David. He feels David Turner's our new, not David Simpson. Talk about the ghosts of Isla. But I've talked to David and he feels very supported by them. He feels um, that he's got the ability to slow things down, that they can do those 4 and maybe even more times a year, that they can do floor malted releases. He feels supported. There's some interesting things going on too, where we've got a hydrogen stilled cask that's there being aged. We've got a Mizunara cask that's being aged that came over from House of Suntory. So there's some nice things going on there. We're working on our peatland sanctuary, so we're restoring peatland and we've saved 75% of the water that we use. So there's a lot of things that Suntory's doing to sort of usher this massively historic distillery into the 21st century with a lot of things that are sustainably minded. So, um, but again, retaining the craft, retaining the tradition of it, and not compromising. So, and again, these casks too, this entire sherry range, these casks are probably $1,000 now. I mean, I used to remember, when European oak sherry casks were 600, I thought that was crazy. But these are probably 4 to 5 times the cost of a bourbon cask. So that's a significant investment in how you mature your spirit. Yeah, I definitely think the mellow, I think the 18, there's just a lot of great things coming. The age is nice. The amount of time it's matured and softened at 18 is nice. But the complexity that you get from that, from the bourbon, fully 18 years in Oloroso, the European oak, the tannins, the structure that brings forth, and then wrapping all that up in the PX, the Pedro Jimenez, a little bit added sweetness, really nice. we've come full circle. We're into the Suntory time. So I think it's time to cheers to the future.
I was gonna say, isn't that a trademark phrase?
Cheers to the future.
Some Tory tone.
Suntory time. Yeah.
Are we pouring the what are we pouring now?
We are on the final, unless anyone wants to circle back to the eight. Um, by the way, the 15 and the 18 were at 43%. I don't know if you noticed just a little bit difference on mouthfeel there. Um, but we are at a little bit more generous. I believe this is 46.8. Yes. So almost 47% on this 21 year. Um, Beautiful color. And
Rich, as we pour our last pour of the night, I invite everyone to turn on their cameras for just 1 second and grab their glass. Hopefully, there's the 21 in there. Um, yeah, it's working. We're getting them. Wes, come back. All right. So yeah, Rich, thank you so much. This has been an amazing series. You've walked us through some of the amazing distilleries owned by Beam Suntory. Uh, first time for us for actually all three. So thank you for making this possible for us. We
my
appreciate
pleasure.
you in the market. Whatever we can do to support you. If you're doing an event, let us know. We'll come out in droves. But I just want to say thanks and thank you for everyone for showing up tonight. So cheers. Raise a glass, smile to the camera for just a second. Got it. Cheers. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Man, that photo got everyone. That looks great.
Mm. Oh,
So
yeah.
as we slowly sip on this 21 year, it took 21 years at least for this liquid to be ready for our consumption. Anything you got going on that we can support you on? Anything, any more pizza events, anything, whatever you can shout out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely let you know. I've got some fun stuff in the works too, next year. I'm waiting to hear back on, what this partnership will look like for Bowmore. I'm hoping they even get us more active in market. I think though there's really some nice opportunities to do some elevated dinners and pairings with it. So I think that'll be great. Also, I've got some fun ideas around Lafroig next year. So definitely, and Vadim, you and I have kind of had some crazy texts back and forth on, um, sort of like discovering different ideas on that and just um, trying to see what we come up with to just push the envelope. But we do have the partnership too with Willem Dafoe. So I think more fun things will be coming out from Lefroy. He is going to release, I believe it's a 14 year. I think I may have even mentioned that last time. So he'll be releasing that. So I think we're going to have some fun stuff around Lefroy next year. I'm flirting with some ideas too of like even renting like a place out that looks like a malting floor and just catering it and seeing if we can do some events there, maybe even some painting things tied in with the wall. Um, so yeah, some fun ideas coming up. And we're also, if anyone's interested, we're going to be doing a Friendsgiving event at the Raymond on, I believe it's November 18th, and I can send the link. But we'll be doing all three Carges at that event, and there'll be a
December
secret
18th or November 18th?
November 18th.
Okay. Yeah, please send all the info.
Yeah. And
Where's
if
where
you
is
haven't
that
gone to
at?
the Raymond, it's awesome. It's an old I craftsman style bungalow from the 20s that they converted into a restaurant. And we're going to do Carges, and I believe could there'll be a secret pour of Lefroy 25 at the end. So I believe. So um,
Where's the Raymond at? What city?
the Raymond's in Pasadena.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'll send the in fact, you could even probably look it up. There's an Eventbrite link on it. I think if you type in the yeah, I love that spot. And they're good guys. So nice little menu. I think we're gonna be outside by the fireplace. Which would just be perfect for the time period, perfect for Lefroy. And and we will be surrounded by friends new and old.
Yes, we got to get a VTS only dinner with Lefroy and Bowmore at some point in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done a dinner with Bowmore yet. So,
Anyone might
um,
not be dead.
And while you were talking, I was Googling all the stuff you mentioned, where the location of the distillery.
yeah,
And did you know there's a literally a pizza shop next to Bowmore called
yeah.
Pizzeria?
That's where I got the idea.
Okay, I thought they
Yeah.
stole the idea from you.
No, no, no. We try to support them actually. I actually even asked them, I was like, this sounds
Like,
crazy, but do you think you could even, because I know I've bought too many pizzas to mention from Chicago and had them shipped over. But I asked them if they could potentially do the same or even some of their ingredients, but they weren't equipped to do so. But if you go to Bowmore, they own a little hotel just down the street from the church, just up the street from the pier. It's a great place to just settle in, and right around the corner is Pizzeria. And just to look up that road and see the church, you're like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, that just it goes. The church is older than the United States. It's crazy.
So yes, so tell us more about this 21. We're back on it. We're enjoying
Yep.
this dessert. It's
Oh,
just
Jacob, good to
mounting.
hear. Glad. I really like. Was Jacob? Was that just to circle back real quick because I saw it, wrote it in there. Was that your favorite then? The
So
Carges white port?
it was like almost my favorite. The 2025 was probably my first favorite. However, I was able to find the white port for like $64 at
Ooh,
Remedy. So I was like, I really have to buy that.
that's such a good price. Yeah, bravo on that.
I've
Nice
never
one.
had Lafroig be that like gentle, sweet, but yet also still have that heat and fire. So it was quite the experience.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, the 21 I love for a couple reasons. So massive complexity again. So we are dealing with over 2 decades in bourbon and Oloroso. So again, that European oak, these are expensive casks, but the European oak is going to give us those tannins, give us that structure, give us those sort of like hallmark notes that you get from sherry with walnut and stewed fruits and dried fruits and things like that. But the 21 year is then finished in first fill PX. So you're going to get a much stronger influence from those 18 months from the Pedro Jimenez, right layered on top of that. So this one is one that I think add a just the tiniest drop in there, open it up, see what it brings out. Vadim, when we did we did this where we with remember the Scotch LA Scotch Society and we did those older ones. The 18 and the 21 sherry actually reinforced that not everything was better back then.
Oh, 100%. That was
It
the one event I walked out of there and I'm like, this may be a controversial opinion, but people keep chasing Dusties, and I'm like,
yeah,
whiskey's never been better than it is today.
I,
There may have
it's
been one
it
or
might
two
be
bangers that
yeah,
came out back in the 60s and 70s. Like you got it was the anomaly. Their
sure.
like base stuff was way worse than it is now.
I think you're right. And and yeah, certainly there's going to be, Lefroy 10s from the 80s that are amazing, and Bowmore's from, a different era, same as well. But I gotta admit, the 18 and the 21, like when you, because you're never gonna, I don't even have oftentimes, opportunities to try ones from the 70s butted up against something that's not even released in the States yet. And the amount of flow and layering and complexity and depth that you pick up in these, especially these last two, the 18 and the 21, um, I really think it made a hell of a case for modern whiskey and present day whiskey.
Mhm.
Date bread with poached pears and honey caramel. Yeah. Let's see. Can I vote in this too?
Mhm. Yep.
I'm not
I,
going to vote. I think you should take the fesh out just
I was
because.
gonna say I didn't want to put the fascia in there because it feels unfair. But hey, so far nobody's clicking it. So you know
Okay.
what? It's gonna be an interesting poll. This 21 though, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Brandon, you're half Taiwanese. The Chinese Taiwanese have a dried sour prune snack. Wow, that's interesting. So, that's it. So you picked that note up on the 15 and it's continued on through the range? That's interesting.
I think he's either frozen or
Is he still
away
with
from
us?
the keyboard.
He might be AFK. Yeah, I've had something similar, umeboshi, which is the Japanese version, and it's an acquired taste, but once you acquire it, it's hard not to like buy everything you find once you find them.
Does it have a sour quality to it?
Yeah, it's sweet and sour and salty all at the same time. It's it's just weird.
Yeah, we don't. It definitely, I've noticed Asians are just a lot better with sort of the broadness of their palates. Like a lot of times, we're gravitating just towards sweet or salty, and we're kind of missing, um, you know, fermented items, sour, things like that, that I think you find in other cultures. So I like having the vantage point there. Someone needs to wake Brandon up so we can get a little bit more.
He's
Uh,
talking in the chat.
oh,
My
there he is. Okay, there we
camera,
go.
I was writing emails on my phone and I swiped out of Zoom and I guess my camera's not working anymore. So
Oh, gotcha. There we go. Yeah, I need to try that.
You're writing emails on your phone?
I'm a
yeah,
Luddite.
I left work early to make this and the emails don't stop.
Oh God, I know.
That's fair.
They are no respecters of whiskey. Shame on them.
We appreciate you leaving early.
Yeah, of course. They don't respect whiskey, and I sometimes feel like they don't respect me. But such is life.
If they don't respect whiskey, this whole group doesn't respect them.
Right.
Yep.
That's bad. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take somebody out back.
Yeah.
There's a joke, something like I wake up every morning and I want to quit my job, and then I look in the mirror and I realize I'm not cute enough for OnlyFans and I gotta go back to work.
Same. Same, Vadim.
Yeah, I get it. Um, Rich, what do you think was the favorite of the night? Everyone has voted.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. I'm gonna say the 18 Sherry.
That's a good guess. Unsurprisingly to me,
Oh, okay. They went
the
right
dessert
on up to
candy,
it.
the 21 year. Of course, it had the advantage. It was the last thing we tasted, but I mean, it was spectacular. And it won first place with 38% of the votes. 18-year Sherry took second, and Fashil took third. Split it
Nice.
with 15-year. That's kind
Yeah,
of cool.
yeah. I mean,
So,
isn't it amazing that an 8-year Fesh is competing with almost double its age, and an additional sherry finish.
They're totally different drams. I think
Yeah.
the 8 year was just spectacular. The finish was fantastic. When the 18 and the 21 get here, should we look for them? Should they are we looking at Total Wine? And do you know what the expected MSRP is going to be on those?
I don't have it yet. I can follow up.
Okay.
I'm hoping that they land at the end of Q1.
Okay.
We've had a couple, we even at the 12 and 15 were even delayed a little bit this year. So I'm hoping that they're not delayed. But absolutely, they will be at KNL, Remedy, Mission. Um, I don't know any of the big box yet, but I can follow up. But
We'd rather support the smaller stores anyway.
yeah, yeah, those ones would be great to look
At least you're
into.
not trying to get TTB approval now. I'm working with a brand that we have scheduled for December, and they just responded saying, "Hey, they're waiting for approval, and the government's shut down, so they don't
Oh
know
shit.
if their shipment's going to get in or not."
Oh my
That's
gosh.
fun.
Wow.
Brandon's back.
The eight comes out swinging with sharper young elbows. I like this review. The 21's almost like his older father. His ball's smoothie and rolls through its complexity. Yeah, yeah. I think I like that call out. Yeah, it's sharper turns. Yeah. Because I don't think it's necessarily off-putting in the sharpness. I think it's just a little bolder.
I do want to go back to the 8 now. I'm gonna see if I have a little bit of my glass to taste it after we've tasted everything else, because I feel like with 20 minutes in the glass, it would have opened up and kind of mellowed out a little.
Wow, I get a lot of cedar wood on the nose going back to the 21 right now, just smelling it.
It was great to see you, Birkin. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Birkin. Yeah, Shane, I like the viscosity on the 21 as well too. So Shane, you voted on the 21, I guess. Yeah, it's a good point too on the extra proof. We kind of glossed over it, but it does have an effect there. Almost 47%. So definitely gonna have an effect there on the mouthfeel.
Do you know if they chill filter? I would assume everything under 46 would be chill filtered, and then non-chill filter the 47, or do you know what the story is?
I don't, 21 I'm almost positive is not.
Okay, makes
I'd
sense.
have to double check on the 12 and 15.
Okay. Because I mean, but they still had even the 18 and the 15 had the sherry cask had a nice viscosity to it. So even if it is filtered, it's not like you guys aren't nuking it. It's pretty
No,
great.
yeah.
And thank you for
Everyone's,
going out and getting these spade rams that we love so much.
yeah, I gotta thank Simon. I think some folks on here probably know Simon from his many loyal years working on Lafroig. But he went to Fesh this year, and I was like, dude, you gotta bring back something good. So, and I gave up my Fesh bottle for this group because I was very tempted for it to say, yep, nothing came back. I'm just kidding. Especially after I tasted the first thing, I was like, oh my God. But I knew it would be a great one, or a great one for all of us. And that's really what it's about. It's like, who am I going to share this with now? 14, 15 of us have tried it and we all have a great experience and a memory behind it, as opposed to just me saying, oh man, you should have tried this year's Fesh.
Yeah, whiskey's meant to be shared for sure.
Yes, absolutely. But I do like the continued comparisons between the 8 and the 21. We need a film version or movie star version.
But you know what? It's funny. So some of the other Islay distilleries that I've had, the younger it is, the more the peat is pronounced, right? You
Yeah,
take a wee beastie at 5 years old, it's just a punch in the face. It
absolutely.
was so mild and gentle on the 8 year. It was all the PX sherry coming out. It was very enjoyable. Like it's not what you would expect from a younger whiskey whatsoever. And I
Yeah,
think proof the cast strength helped, but overall, it's just an enjoyable whiskey.
yeah. I thought it was lovely. It'll be interesting, now that we've all tried it. Mark that down, just kind of make a mental note. That was the 2025 Fesh. It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, I love Jacob. I love that the Willem Dafoe video. Um, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the pricing on this. Will this reach a secondary market? Is there enough where it's going to? And I don't even know. Maybe Vadim, you can check and see if it's already out there in the marketplace. I haven't looked myself. Who's the actor in The Bear? I'm gonna put him as the 8 year. The guy in the new Springsteen flick. Green Goblin blend. I was thinking the exact same thing actually. Well, I
Jeremy Allen.
was I was like, we have to make I was so the other thing is I may do a couple like maybe like film events around it, even if we find like, a theater where we can have cocktails um and drams. And I thought for sure the Green Goblin's got to be a name of one of the cocktails.
But I feel like thinking about it, just because you guys partner with Defoe, I mean, somebody owns the rights to Spider-Man and Green Goblin, right?
Yeah.
Like you
That's why it
can't,
got nixed. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, okay. You can't like do a Green Goblin release just because Defoe's on it.
You can call
exactly.
it goblin, just don't call it green.
Yeah, say chartreuse goblin.
Yeah.
And
Chartreuse
you could
is
use
an own
Or
and
thing.
you could use
call it
green
the
chartreuse.
goblin and make it green.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, that's like Michael, that's one of my favorite cocktails lately with Lafroig is I think it's called The Last Stop. And it's got the specs of a Negroni, and it's Campari, Lafroig, and green chartreuse. Actually, I think I cut back the Campari a little bit, but it's great. It's so good. If you have a bar that has green chartreuse and they're not going to charge you $45 for the cocktail, I would ask them to make that. Vadim's always pretty good with following up and trying cocktails in the on-premise. Our smoking section cocktail, which is did we decide on Lafroig or Bowmore eventually?
It was Lafroy. It was Lafroy
It
10.
was Lafroig, yeah. So it was a paper plane made with Lafroig, so we called it the smoking section.
So good. It's my regular go-to now at every
Is it
bar.
really?
Because they have the ingredients. Final ward, not last word. Final ward. Ward, like a
No,
Or it's like a district.
I think it's called the last stop, but I know the final word cocktail, a ward cocktail too. Yeah,
that's a mouth
I've made that one
tongue
before.
twister.
That one's delish.
But I can see that being really good with a peated scotch, green chartreuse, maraschino, and lemon juice.
yeah. Tony, by the way, because I've ordered in a couple, watch out if the shipper's UPS. I got hit with $100 additional delivery fee upon delivery, and they tried to say tariffs and this, that, and it's bullshit. It's because I ordered at the same time from another shipper and they didn't charge that. So UPS is charging exorbitant fees on top of what you pay to get things shipped here.
Yes, they certainly are. And some places aren't even guaranteeing shipping or damages to your goods.
Jeez.
And a lot of them are blaming UPS Louisville and the Department of Agriculture for confiscating the goods. How true that is, I don't see the Department of Agriculture doing that.
Yeah,
But so I think it's strictly UPS.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And again, and the only reason I would have believed it because it was during the time when I think I was actually ordering in this 21 year for this event. And it was during the time that I'd ordered from another, I think it was Whiskey International and Whiskey World were the two vendors. And one of them used UPS. I couldn't believe I got hit with an additional $100 on top of the shipping I'd already paid. And the other shipper did not charge that. That's when I go, yeah, this isn't tariffs. This is you trying to take advantage of tariffs.
Yeah, was it DHL maybe that didn't charge?
I think I was trying to think who the other one was, and I think it was DHL.
Yeah, they're normally pretty good.
I just pick up a bottle for somebody, the DHL that just put it in quarantine here, and they said they can release it. So it's somebody need to go to the airport, and Bino went to the airport to release it, and I carry it to somebody in the Bay Area. But
Wow.
it's all over now with the turf and
Wow. You had to go to LAX to,
it went through. Yeah, like DHL couldn't deliver it because they don't have anymore the ground service here. So I guess they transferred, or I don't know if to UPS or to the post, and that got stuck in LAX.
wow, that's crazy.
I'm not sure what the fee that they need to pay, but yeah, it's all over now. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people stop to buy anything from the auction now in Europe, just because it's a nightmare to bring it in.
Yeah. I think we should just be happy we're in a major market and both the country and the city that we're able to get a lot of this stuff. Um, some people don't see it at all, so we have to wait a little bit, but good things come to those who wait. All right. Well, guys, I am going to let you enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope you enjoyed this tasting with Bowmore, and thank Vadim for putting it together. A lot of great stuff if you're local, or if you have a reason to fly out. I'll keep you all abreast of all this stuff. Um, and if any of you have any fun ideas that come to mind, shoot them my way. Let's see if we can activate them. So, with that, I hope to see some local people if you want at the Friendsgiving at the Raymond. It's on Eventbrite if you're interested. And if not, then I hope everyone has a really great holiday and going into the new year. We'll see you in 2026.
Thank
Great.
you,
Thank
Mike.
you so much. We'll see you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Rich.